This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Jennifer Boysko, and Jennifer is running for the House of Delegates in the Commonwealth state of Virginia. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Frank. I appreciate you having me here.
You're most welcome. So why are you running for the House of Delegates?
Well, you know, I've spent the past 5 years working at the local level for my member of the Board of Supervisors, helping people solve their problems in Fairfax County.
Okay.
As I've done that, I've also watched what's happened on the state level, and I found it very frustrating. We have seen the majority of the House of Delegates focusing on socially divisive issues and leaving out important kitchen table issues, I like to call them, like education, health and human services, and transportation.
So tell me, so what's your proposal? I heard from other people as well, the traffic congestion is an issue. Mm-hmm. Education, which involves the pre-K education, mm-hmm. K through education, higher education is an issue. And you talk about the social issues, so we'll talk a little bit about that too. So tell me, what is your proposal that you will do as a member of the House of Delegates that your opponents cannot do, have not performed, have not done it?
Sure. Well, education is one top issue for me. I'm a mother of 2 teenage daughters, and I have watched them learn how to take a high-stakes multiple-choice test. However, one of my daughters is in college, and she came back after her first year and said, you know what, we didn't learn critical thinking. We didn't focus on problem solving. I learned how to get the grades that I needed. I knew how to take the multiple choice tests, but there's a deficit there. So I would like us to go back to the earliest stages from pre-K on, make sure we're working with teachers, other educators, people who have a stake in the business, as opposed to legislators who are not experts in the field.
Right.
Have them put together a blue ribbon panel and figure out how we can go back and look at our testing methods, how we can go back and look at our teaching methods to make sure that we're in making the best possible decisions for our students.
Very good. So President Obama said, you probably heard the conversations he had several times with the community colleges, and he talks about pre-K educations, and he talks about the shared goals as well as shared responsibility, and also the federal government should be also pitching in terms of the pre-K educations and the K through 12 education. So it has to be a partnership between the state and the federal government. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and you know what, the federal government does offer funds for us. Sometimes we have to provide matching funds at the local level that we don't have the funds for, so we end up leaving money on the table.
Okay.
I would like to see us make sure that we're harnessing all the opportunities we have.
What's your thoughts on the reform for the educations, in terms of the preparations of the teachers is one of the issues. The dropout rate is an issue. What's your thoughts on that? What do we need to do?
I think we put our teachers under tremendous stress.
Okay.
The administrators are striving to make sure that we get those numbers to show that we have high achievements.
Okay.
And the teachers have their hands tied with making sure that they're preparing the kids for those tests. I would like to see us go back and give the teachers a little more leeway, respect our local entities, our local school board members, to work with them to make sure that they're really addressing the needs they need to be addressing, as opposed to just, hitting a score.
Is that what it is? A score?
I think it is. I mean, we look at now.
Is that a number game?
It is a number game. We have a school takeover bill that was just passed this past year, and even the Attorney General Cuccinelli said that it's unconstitutional. If students don't do well enough on their SOLs, then the state is going to come in and remove resources from that school district.
He's running for governor, you know that.
He is, yes.
Now, tell me, Jennifer, what district do you want to represent, name of the districts, and how people will get hold of you, they want to contribute or help you?
Sure.
And also, what's your webpage and how the campaign is going? I have a lot of questions, so perhaps you can answer one by one.
Okay. My name again is Jennifer Boysko. I'm running for the 86th District in the House of Delegates. I'm the Democratic candidate. My website is my name, jenniferboysko.com, and I'll spell that for you, Boysko.
Okay, and how the campaigns are doing so far?
It's going very well.
Okay.
I have a great group of volunteers who work with me every day. We've visited over 22,000 households, and I'm talking to voters each and every afternoon, hearing that they're looking for a change, that they're concerned with the direction that Virginia has been taking recently, focusing on socially divisive issues. You know, we are hearing people, and they're ready for something different.
Let's talk a little bit about you're a woman.
Yes.
And obviously, women's issue has been a hot issue over here in the state of Virginia. And reproductive rights. So I'd like you to focus on that. And the number two is health care. Make it affordable. And your Attorney General went to the Supreme Court and for Obama, also known as Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare. And there's a lot of issues going on right now and discussions going on in the state and the not only in the United States, but the United States Senate and the House of Representatives. So what's your thoughts are on those two topics?
I believe that these are big issues for me.
They are
as a
big issues
woman.
for you. You should be.
Yes. The current the House of Delegates is comprised of over 80% men.
Okay.
They're never going to have to face a pregnancy themselves. I'm a woman. I have daughters. And
you can relate to it. You
I
understand
can relate
it.
to it. I'm a mother. I've given birth. I have, put in the effort and the time raising my own children. And the fact that a bunch of folks in Richmond are going to dictate or try to dictate how we raise our families, what our reproductive choices are. Even birth control has been up for grabs in some of these.
So what made them to do that? They have a wife. They have a sisters. They have a daughters. I mean, it's a basic fundamental principles, basic fundamental things for the people's right. For all these things that you're talking about. So why are they so much against it?
That's a really good question. I'm not going to pretend that I have that answer. I believe that family, these decisions should be made in your own family with your doctor, your family, your house of worship. The government should have no role in this. And I will stand up and speak out against that consistently. I will not give in to political pressure. I've been endorsed by NARAL Pro-Choice and by Planned Parenthood, groups who also have fought for these efforts since the 70s. We're talking about women's access to health care, not only for reproductive rights, but as we saw this bill where clinics are closing now because they forced them to adhere to hospital standards. That's a backhanded way of marginalizing these issues again. And not only is it going to hurt a woman's reproductive right, but it's also going to, some of these ladies, this is the only way they go to the doctor. So we're talking about preventative health care screenings and cancer prevention as well.
But those are the fundamental rights of any citizens in any nation, including the United States.
I agree.
And in the healthcare case, as I understand, we are 14th among the developing nations in the world in terms of the woman's situation, in terms of the men's, in terms of the having affordable health care. So why this has become so dysfunctional in Richmond?
I think it has a lot to do with.
And you need people like yourself to bring a new and fresh blood and to talk about what's the right thing to do for this country is.
I think we've gotten to a point where we've dissolved into just partisan bickering and allowing wedge issues because they're exciting and they get people upset. That's the only thing that I can come up with because it's not common sense based. It's not science based.
They become heartless and soulless and sort of thoughtless and reckless. Is that what you think? Those are not my words.
You know what? These policies that
That's
they're
what I
passing,
heard.
The policies that we're passing are affecting millions of Virginians.
I agree.
And I think sometimes when they take those votes, they're trying to police their leadership. They're being, having arms twisted. They're not thinking about Miss Jones, who, has significant health issues, and it would be dangerous for her to have another pregnancy. They're not thinking about, families who are struggling just to put dinner on the table. They're thinking about holding on to their own power.
So they're there to advance their own personal agenda. It's a partisan politics.
That's how I feel about it.
That's how you feel about it.
And I'm not going to be a part of that.
Okay. So the incumbent is out of touch.
Yes.
You believe so?
I believe he is. If you look at his record, he has voted with that majority 97% of the time over the past decade.
And how, in terms of your campaign, is going in terms of the going to door and talking to the people? That's what the politics. That's what the so the people have the voice and the vote. So how are you doing in that area? Are you talking to each of the individuals and knocking on the people's door and talking to them?
I am. I do that every single day. That's the best part of my day, actually, is going and meeting
And
voters.
you listen to what they have to say, listen and learn.
Asking them what's important to them.
And so what are the common denominator in this, Jennifer, has been so far? I heard education, I heard transportation, I heard women's right, reproductive right, and people have to get a job. What other issues that you think are you hearing from the people?
They are sick of the partisan bickering.
Okay.
That's really.
So how come, if that's the case, then how come the people are voting for those individuals who are into this kind of partisan politics?
Here's the interesting thing, Frank.
Okay, Jennifer.
If we're talking about the presidential election, everybody comes out. Everybody comes out and casts their vote. In these off-year elections,
okay, so the
we
mobility,
don't have the turnout.
So mobility is not there.
People don't choose to come to the polls.
So we hear a lot of complaints and we are not creating a 21st century workforce as you heard the terms many times, because we're not working with the companies that can create the curriculum that you need in the community colleges as well as in the schools, so that they can learn the trade and go get a job and enter the workforce. What's your thoughts on that? What do we need to do? Why are we lacking so much in that area?
You know, I was just reading an article in the Atlantic magazine this morning, and it was written from the perspective of a college student who said he learned how to ace a test. He learned how to get the grades without doing.
But he never learned any trade to get a job?
He didn't learn the meat and the potatoes of what he was supposed to be doing. And I think that we're at a real deficit at that. We need to be working, increasing our STEM programs with our elementary children.
STEM is the science, technology, engineering, math, so we
yes.
can compete in the global market, because of the fact that our economy is very much globally competitive right now. So that's a good thing. So what would you do? Let me just shift the gear a little bit. You talked about transportation, the congestions, and your opponent voted against that bill?
No, he supported.
He supported the bill. So what would you do differently than he has done?
I would fight every single session to bring resources back to Northern Virginia. In 2012, he shepherded the bill that the governor wanted that brought most of the resources down to the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. I would be representing Northern Virginia. I would be focusing on bringing resources back home each and every year. When I worked for Supervisor Faust, my Drainsville supervisor, I worked with senior staff from Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Town of Herndon, VDOT, and the airport to identify small connections we could make that would decrease congestion. So listening to the community, making sure the community has a voice, working with the community leaders, bringing everybody to the table is imperative. And then you let your community know what's on the plan, and you make sure that everybody understands what's at stake.
So those are the kind of things you need to do in terms of easing the congestions. What kind of reform do you see, you would like to see in education? That's a big thing for you.
That is, and as I said earlier, I'd like us to look at the way we're testing our students.
I think you mentioned that.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
I would like us to make sure we are empowering our school boards to make decisions they need to make and give teachers flexibility so that they can work best with their students in the classroom. I disagree that the current system is the best system for us. I think teaching to ace a multiple choice test leaves kids unprepared.
So you want to exploit their fullest potential.
I do.
Just not memorizing these tests.
Correct.
You're not creating tomorrow's leaders.
You're not creating tomorrow's leaders.
And that's what the education should be all about. It's creating the leaders for tomorrow.
That's correct.
Because we will be gone from this planet of Earth. We have a short time, so we're creating the next generations.
That's right. The baby boomers are getting ready to retire.
Exactly.
And we always talk about the tsunami of seniors who are going to be leaving the workforce.
Right.
We need to make sure sure our youth are prepared and ready to stand up and take the mantle for the next generation.
So they have additional responsibility on their shoulder.
They do. It's a lot of responsibility.
And hopefully we can help them to harness the responsibility to become responsible, and to give them the strength and courage to continue on. Correct?
Correct. As a parent, I see that as my biggest role, making sure that my children are productive members of society that can give back and help working in their community. I want my girls to come back. Once they get out of college, I want them to come back. I want them to be able to afford to live in Fairfax County. I want them to have the rights that they should be able to make decisions for themselves
Sure.
on a personal basis.
Sure. So you want them to come back and serve the community.
Yes, I do.
That's a noble cause. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Jennifer,
you so
and good
much.
luck to you, Jennifer.
I appreciate it so much,
Sure.
Frank. Thank you for having me.
So this is Frank Islam, wishing you a great week, and thank you for watching.